Let's roll, baby. Good morning, one and all. Welcome in to the part 2 edition of our divisional round Ringer Wise Guys extravaganza right here on FanDuel TV. I'm John Jastremski alongside cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer. We have you covered across the board for the Lions and the Buccaneers. And then, of course, the big one with the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes playing on the road in the postseason for the first time in the Mahomes-Reed era in Buffalo against Josh Allen and the Bills. A lot to digest from the two games on Saturday. And Sal, no surprise that we will see the Ravens and the Niners as a part of Championship Sunday, but both teams found a way to get to Championship Sunday in very different ways.
Yeah, Ravens didn't, their fans, maybe for an hour, they were a little confused as to what's going on, but they righted the ship. The 49ers probably could have lost that game. Either way, JJ, my picks, I am running so cold. I'm running so cold, the league is thinking of postponing my picks until Monday because the fans can't get to them. So I'm the most fadeable face on this show. Good luck. And the worst part is, I'm as confident as ever in these two games.
Which I love to hear. We like your confidence moving forward. Sal, you feel bad for Texan fans as they're watching the end of that first half, but it was 1,000 times worse if you were you, because you were rolling the dice. You gave us a big swing for your wisest wager, and to lose that on a missed field goal is awfully tough to take.
7-1 odds that the Texans win the first half, Ravens win the game. Raheem is going to argue with me. I could see both ways. I know he had the Ravens minus 6.5 the first half. It doesn't matter. I'm going to lose everything. So we could phrase it whatever we want.
Well, listen, you've had some regression after a terrific regular season.
Yes.
Joe House, a perfect Saturday for you. And you even survived the fact that the Green Bay Packers, it felt like they kind of settled for way too many field goals. It felt like they had opportunities to go and score even more points. Didn't get a great game out of Jordan Love. But you got to love the fact that you put together a perfect Saturday, my man.
Yeah, I'll say with respect to the Packers, I never really had concern about them getting across the line with 19.5 as their team total because they moved the football up and down the field all day long against that San Francisco defense. And part of the handicap was that defense had been compromised since they had injury in the second half, that Niner defense. But, we didn't factor in the pouring rain. We've been talking about these weather-impacted games. By far the most weather-impacted game, to my way of looking at it, was the rain in that Niners Green Bay game. And I enjoyed it very much. A reminder, Christian McCaffrey, the MVP, certainly of the Niners, and very much entitled, should have got a look for MVP of the entire NFL.
Not wrong about that. And listen, the weather, hands down, biggest impact. I saw it last week in the sub-zero with Kansas City and Miami. But Raheem, moving forward, as somebody who has a ticket on San Francisco to go and win the Super Bowl, I don't want to see Brock Purdy playing in rainy conditions ever again because he was simply incompetent when it comes to throwing the football in the slippery type of feel that you had in Santa Clara. And, the way I looked at that game as somebody who laid the 9.5, Raheem, at the end of the first half, when I saw Kyle Shanahan handle the clock and handle the situation the way that he did, I knew right then and there I could take my 9.5 Niner ticket and basically set it on fire. It had no chance of covering.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Brock Purdy threw so many interceptable passes, but the Green Bay Packers didn't catch them. And that was the difference in that game yesterday. The 49ers were able to catch those interceptions while the Packers weren't. And you look at Kyle Shanahan, historically, when games get tight in the postseason, he kind of gets a little scared. He kind of gets a little shaky. So that's something to look for going forward with this 49ers team. I mean, we know throughout the regular season, they were winning games by margin. They either win by double digits or they lost outright. Well, this is the first game this season where they had to come back. So it'll be interesting to see how that looks going forward.
That said, I thought it was a perfect opportunity, Sal, and I got on board with this yesterday. The Niners, when they were down in this game, you could have had them at basically even money to go and win it.
Oh, yeah.
I snagged it. I said, I'm getting out of the 9.5, and if the Niners are going to lose to the Packers outright, I'm going to tip my cap. Got to monitor those live lines, right, Sally Boy?
You got to be all over it. Go ahead, Jay.
Not to cut you off, you actually could have gotten the 49ers at like plus 240 right before that field goal. And once they missed the field goal, and it was only a 4-point game, you could get like plus 145. So there were some great numbers available.
See, I didn't get as good a number because I took it right after the Packers scored that touchdown, I think to go up 6 or 7. I forget what it was. But listen, we're never going to complain when we could get out of a bad bet, which was Niners at 9.5, and get out of it with a win. Hey, listen, we'll take splitting the day after what happened wild card weekend. All right, boys, we got a lot to get to here in this Sunday divisional round Ringer Wise Guys show. We'll have Sunday's wisest wagers for the Buccaneers and the Lions, for the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. We'll have all sorts of player props. Can I find an anytime touchdown like I did with one Mr. Likely on Saturday? We'll have that. Sal's buddy, Harry G. Our good pal, Steve Cerudi. Great hair. They'll be joining us with some guest picks. You want to stay tuned for that. And rumor has it that Danny Heifetz from the Ringers Fantasy Football Show will be joining us on our digital platforms right after this show wraps up at noon Eastern. And he'll have all sorts of plays and have all sorts of insight for us. Guys, for the third to last time here in this football season, it's time to wisen up. Sal, I don't know why I'm starting with you, but I am going to start with you. Maybe sooner or later, something's got to give here on the Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions. I don't know how you're playing it. The floor is yours, sir. Give me a winner, please.
Well, this is very bad news for you because I know how you're playing it, and we're on the same side here. I'm taking Tampa Bay plus 6.5 here. Look, I think these two teams are very similar in terms of how much they could score, what they could do on the field. We saw... All right, maybe Tampa Bay went against the most fraudulent team in the playoffs, the Eagles. It's probably my Cowboys, but I like to say the Eagles. But I didn't care about that. I just was able to see that Baker Mayfield could throw the ball. We didn't see that against the Panthers. He was overthrowing Mike Evans. He was underthrowing Godwin. But he was on target against this Eagles team, and that's all I needed to see. Baker Mayfield, by the way, Raheem brought up that Lamar Jackson was the most profitable quarterback in the NFL I think ever. But as an underdog, it's Baker Mayfield. 9-3 against the spread this year. As an underdog, 7-1 against the spread Tampa is over the last 8. I'm not going to say that Detroit is just happy to be there after winning their first playoff game, but there is a home playoff game. It is a sigh of relief. Maybe they take their foot off the gas. They certainly did against the Rams. They only scored 3 in the entirety of the second half in that game. I'm calling it, JJ. Take it for what it's worth. I'm calling the upset here, 28-24. Buccaneers win this game on the field. They're in the NFC Championship.
Wow, Sal calling his shot. I'll have some thoughts on Tampa Bay and Detroit from my perspective in a matter of moments. House, let's try to follow up what was a perfect Saturday for you. Lions laying the 6.5. Sal just made the case for Tampa Bay. We have a total that to me indicates there are going to be some points in this particular matchup. Is that the way we are sizing up our wisest wager? What do we got?
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of the case that the Cuz just laid out, and I also agree with the idea that points are going to be scored in this game, but I am playing Detroit to win this game outright. I've been so impressed by them over the course of the season. I don't want to lay the juice you have to lay to take the Detroit money line, so I'm matching that up with an adjusted total. I'm taking the total down a notch. And it kind of fits the game script of what Cousin Sal described happened last week. I see a kind of 24-21 kind of win for Detroit. And the case here, it really boils down to a single kind of handicap. It's the idea of, can the Detroit Lions protect Jared Goff and keep him efficient? He's very good at home in the dome, but here's the key. Can Detroit manage the Todd Bowles blitz? Because in the first matchup, they did a great job. There is an enormous split between the number of blitzes by Tampa Bay in that game that Detroit won handily and the actual pressure they put on Goff. They blitzed him at around a 40% rate, but they only pressured him around 28% of the time. Now, Goff, like lots of quarterbacks in the NFL, has much worse splits under pressure. But the way that Detroit handled the blitz against Tampa, they actually kind of capitalized that on the last handful of games of the season. If you look at the way that Jared Goff performed against the blitz in the 2 games against Minnesota, the most blitzingest team in the entire NFL, his splits are pretty good. So I have this narrowed down to a single handicap. I like Detroit to win outright. I like Jared Goff at home. I like Detroit to protect him against that Tampa rush. And both of these teams are pass funnel defenses. In perfect conditions, I expect there to be points. So the adjusted total down to 44.5 feels like a safe place to me, JJ.
Well, I like the way you're playing this here, getting two-teamer, basically at even money. All you need is Detroit to win, and you're banking on the fact that there will be points in this game. I tend to agree with that. Now, Raheem, for your wisest wager, is any thought process going in regarding the idea of, hey, these teams matched up in the regular season, I'm going to put in the back of the memory bank what I saw in the regular season matchup, or are you throwing it out the window when it comes to your wisest wager and looking at this game between Detroit and Tampa in just a totally different way?
Well, you can never totally throw anything out the window. As Daryl Morey says, everything is a data point. And the data point from that game is that Jared Goff was relatively successful despite playing outdoors with a lot of wind. Now we're back at a dome. So I like the Buccaneers Lions over 49.5. I actually grabbed this at 48.5 earlier this week, but this line has gone up. You look at the Detroit Lions, they have averaged 29.8 points per game in the regular season and the postseason this year at home. And like House said, they're taking on a pass funnel defense. You look at the Buccaneers, they're 22nd in drop back EPA per play. And when teams are facing the Bucs, they've thrown at the 7th highest rate in the NFL. To House's point, he spoke about Jared Goff in the blitz. Since that week 14 game against the Chicago Bears, Jared Goff is the 3rd highest rated quarterback against the blitz. So he's gotten used to dealing with the blitz. He's taken on the Minnesota Vikings, and he should be prepared for this matchup. And with him at home, I expect the Lions to put up some points. Now, when you look at the other side of the ball, this Lions defense, they are also a pass funnel defense. They are top 10 in rushing EPA per play on defense. However, they're just 25th in dropback success rate and 25th in dropback EPA per play. So Baker Mayfield should be able to get off here. I mean, I'm expecting a big day from Baker Mayfield. I'm expecting a big day from Mike Evans. And you look at this Detroit Lions defense, I mean, like, they've been like living on a thread. They gave up 7.7 yards per play and 9.4 yards per pass against the Rams. And they've really gotten lucky. You go back to some of these games. The Rams were 0-3 in the red zone. The Cowboys were 2-4 in the red zone. They had a CeeDee Lamb fumble at the 1. They had a Dak Prescott interception. You go back to that Bears game. The Bears were 2-5 in the red zone. So these totals have been suppressed by bad red zone luck. And this Lions defense isn't nearly as good as they've showed the last couple of weeks. So I expect the Lions to score. I expect the Buccaneers to score. Let's go over 49.5.
By the way, Raheem talks about, like, you know, he got it at 48.5 and now it's 49.5. People are like, oh, what's the difference? It does matter. The numbers matter, right, Raheem? That Houston game got middled. That Houston total was middled. These odds makers know what the F they're doing at this point in the year. It's very tight.
No doubt about it.
Without a doubt. And I think one thing that you have to understand, 49 is a key number with NFL totals. It's unfortunate a lot of times we have these production meetings and we'll set a line and we'll put our picks in the spreadsheet that we have. And then, you know, an hour before we actually start to record, these lines.
Next year, no production meetings. I'm calling it now.
That's it. No more production meetings. Sorry, Jack Wilson. And listen, here's what it boils down to. Raheem, I feel for you. I'd like to get you to better number, but we do the show at 11 a.m. Eastern. So whatever that number might be at 11 a.m. Eastern is what you were getting here on Ringer Wise, guys. But I think you'll have yourself a winner. I think you'll have a whole lot of points between the Bucs and the Lions. And by the way, living on a thread, a certain guy in Jersey wrote a song named Living on a Prayer. I thought you were going to drop a little Bon Jovi on me. Fellas, it's time to mock the Podfather because the Podfather had the audacity to call out the East Coast bias crew and took a shot at Cousin Sal and took a shot at me for mocking the idea that anyone could like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday. Well, guess what, Cousin Sal? I'm right there with you. I am grabbing the 6.5 points with Baker Mayfield and the upstart Buccaneers because I expect them to be able to score on the Detroit Lions. I also expect Todd Bowles getting a look at this Lion offense for the second time to throw a couple of blitz wrinkles into the equation. And what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and this is just for you, Bill Simmons. This is our first rat line of the postseason.
Ooh.
Detroit, everyone's darling, Eminem, Calvin Johnson, finally getting off the schneid, finally winning a playoff game. Now everybody, Detroit. I'm going to take Detroit and tease them. I'm going to take Detroit and parlay them. I'm going to do everything imaginable with Detroit. This line seems a little too good to be true as far as I'm concerned. House, you might get you win. I think for the sake of the NFC Championship game, you'll get a better matchup if we're talking about the Lions and the Niners next week. I just think this game is going to be one of those white knucklers. I think it's a game that comes down to the final 2 minutes. 6.5 points is valuable. I am taking Tampa, who nobody wants to take except for Sal and myself. Buccaneers, 6.5. And if you're feeling frisky, you might want to roll the dice and maybe have a little fun with the money line. All right.
I love the pick. I love it. And that should scare the crap out of you.
Hey, listen, Sal, I'm a believer in due, and I'm a believer that you are due. We transition from our wisest wagers to player props. And guys, I'll start the proceedings because my player prop kind of coincides with what I just gave out with Tampa plus 6.5. I like Baker Mayfield over 250 passing yards in this game. The reason I do, Tampa is not a great team when it comes to running the football. They have receivers that can go and make plays against this Lions secondary. I'll get to this later on when we do our family meal. It's going to be a big day for Mike Evans. And therefore, I think Baker Mayfield is going to be slinging it throughout the course of this game. I know you got to lay some juice on this one. I feel great about it. Parlay it with something that you like. Give me Mayfield over 250 passing yards. Raheem, prop time. What do we got?
So it's interesting that you like Baker Mayfield over 250 yards because my prop is actually correlated with that as it's correlated with the total. I like Rachaad White under 15.5 rushing attempts, minus 136. We spoke about the Lions. They are fourth in rushing EPA per play on defense. And you look, every single line tells a story. That's one of the phrases that I've always heard. And this line tells a story. The Bucs are 6.5 point underdogs. So if they're 6.5 point underdogs, that typically means that they're probably going to have to throw their way back into this game or just throw their way to make themselves competitive in this game. So Rachaad White, he goes under in 7 out of 8 losses this season. And only one running back has covered this line in regulation. That's Austin Eckler. He had 19 rushing attempts. The Lions, they allowed a second fewest amount of rushing attempts to running backs because teams just don't want to run on this Lions defense. They want to pass. This is a pass funnel defense. So this is a good spot to take his rushing attempts under. I think you'll see a lot of passes from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look over the last couple of weeks, this hasn't been the typical Todd Bowles strategy. They've been throwing the ball. So Rachaad White under 15.5 rushing attempts.
Raheem, I absolutely love it. Now, House, for your player prop, you're getting back on the Baker Mayfield train. Ain't that right, sir?
Yeah, I've cashed this once, and I just want to advise everybody. The Ringer Wise guys are very much in alignment. We have a songbook that we're all singing out of. Just be careful out there. According to the script that both JJ and Dream have laid out, I'm playing Baker Mayfield over 1.5 passing touchdowns. It fits all the themes that we've been talking about. That Detroit pass defense. Baker's been cooking. Baker has 2 touchdowns or more in 7 of his last 8 games. He is the second ranked passer on the road in the NFL this season with 18 passing touchdowns in 9 road games. He's gone over this number in 5 of the last 6 and 9 of 12. And we know about Detroit. Detroit has allowed this over 1.5 passing touchdown number in 4 straight games. They've allowed the 5th most passing touchdowns. This is exactly how the Bucs want to score. I agree with Dream that Rachaad White's not going to get all the touches. Baker's spreading it around. He finds the underbelly of these defenses. Baker Mayfield over 1.5 passing touchdowns, guys.
Well, we are aligned when it comes to these player props. Everybody across the board here has given out somebody from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sal, are you going to continue that trend, or are you giving us somebody from Detroit?
Yeah, I'm a little scared here because I'm not only continuing that trend, but I'm pushing the narrative further that there's going to be a lot of points. We know now this is going to be a 17-9 game, right, with 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. That's just how it is. But tell me this. JJ, I think this is another rat prop here in Mike Evans to have the most receiving yards in that Tampa Bay Detroit game. For a minute, I thought about it. I was like, is this just for the whole day? Is this for the whole weekend? No, it's for just this game at plus 320. Now, he's gone under 80 yards the last 3 games, so this is the he's due narrative, much like I'm due here. But he's had 3 100-yard games in the playoffs, and look what Detroit has done against Puka, against CD. They've given up giant numbers to these guys in the last few weeks. In fact, their last 5 top receivers they faced, they've given up over 100 yards, and in some cases, 200 yards. I don't know why this is so high, especially whatever you think. If you think Tampa's going to have to come back and there's going to be garbage yards here, throw in the second half, I really love this Mike Evans prop. He's at a 162. He's at a 143. He's at a 171. I think he makes some big grabs here. I don't understand why this is so high at plus 320.
Well, and I think you're going to have a situation, too, where Mike Evans, after a rough game against the Philadelphia Eagles last week, is poised for a bounce back. He's had games where he puts up these monster stat lines, to your point. He also has some games where he can't catch a cold. Well, he's coming off a game where he couldn't catch a cold. Now I think we're going to get a big-time game. Now, you have St. Brown in the game. You know he's going to get his. Maybe that's why this total's a little bit inflated. But at plus 320, you were getting a very juicy number. Sal, I absolutely love it. Now, Steve Cerudi, our pal, Russillo extraordinaire, worked with me for a long time. He wanted to join the proceedings. A guest pick. Cerudi, take it away, sir.
What's up, Ring of Wise guys? It's Cerudi. Great to be back with the boys. I have a pick for you in Lions Bucs. Now, I don't have a lean on the total. I don't have a lean on the spread. But something you might not know about me is I'm a bit of a Baker Mayfield stan. I just love this dude. He's a gamer. And yeah, I know he's not an awesome quarterback, but he could be the quarterback of my team any day. I think he has a big game, win or loss, no matter what the game script is. So I'm going to go over 260.5 passing yards for our guard Baker. I think Mike Evans has a bounce back game as well after like dropping a touchdown pass against the Eagles and kind of a weird performance in that last game in the wild card round. I think he goes over 72.5 receiving yards as well. And throw in over 50 yards for Amon-Ra St. Brown because he's done this in basically all but 2 games his entire season. That pays about 2-1 for you there. So we're backing my guy Baker. I don't know who wins. I don't know what the score is, but I do know that Baker has a big game. What do you guys think?
Now, I know there aren't that many options because we're only dealing with 2 games, right? But, Raheem, I kind of feel like our guy Cerudi, he's in on Baker Mayfield. He's in on Mike Evans. The only difference is he's throwing St. Brown into the equation. I love that parlay.
Yeah, I love it too. I wish him the best of luck. I think he has a good one with this one.
You know, there are some guys, though, that we should be looking at, Sal, where it's like, hey, we know certain guys are going to be thrown into every parlay. I almost feel as if we got to find an under or two. I know we haven't done that over the course of the show, but I almost think that would actually help us out here, knowing, hey, everybody's betting this game. Everybody's going to be throwing certain names into a parlay. You zag and go 1 or 2 guys from an under perspective. You could go and clean up, man.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea, really. I mean, look, these player props, it is what it is. I had Deebo Samuel and everything. I had no idea he was going to be on the field for 6 plays, and that was going to be that. So that shows you how much the unders really make sense over the course of a year.
Gets tricky. All right, guys, let's take an eye on the future. The Super Bowl futures market for the 2023 season is starting to dwindle. Niners, Ravens, you see it right there. Niners at plus 145, Ravens at plus 200. You're going to grab somebody. The 2 teams I'd be looking at, you see them right there. Buffalo at 550, Kansas City at 850, and then you got the Lions at 10-1, and you have the Bucs at plus 5,000. Raheem, you gave out 10-1 Kansas City. This might be a little bit of a spoiler for what's coming up right after the break. 850 with the Chiefs. You still see some value there?
Yeah, I definitely still see some value with the Chiefs at plus 850. So, like, I'm high on this Chiefs team. I don't want to break down how I feel about today's game now, but if I'm looking somewhere else on the board, I like the Detroit Lions at 10-1. I know it sounds crazy. You got Beverly Hills Cop Part 4 dropping this year. You got Eddie Murphy, Alex Foley. He's coming back with the Detroit Lions jacket. It's probably a good omen. But, I mean, really, the Lions, they're 6.5-point favorites today. And from what we saw from that 49ers team yesterday with Brock Purdy, they look a little suspect. So if they win today, anything can happen next week. And I think you have some good value on the Lions. Obviously, my favorite is the Kansas City Chiefs at plus 850. But if I had to take another one, it's definitely the Detroit Lions.
Raheem, did you say Alex Foley? Did you say Alex? Is that Axel's?
Yes, Axel Foley.
Nerd brother?
2024 brother.
House, would you grab 10-1 there with Detroit?
I love the case that Dream just made in support of Detroit. The thing that caught my eye is that the Chiefs moved when we sat down and went through this yesterday. The Chiefs were at 7-1, and now they moved, I guess, because of that Baltimore performance, all the way up to plus 850. I love that line moving in that direction. I mean, all the Ravens did was take care of business at home against a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach. I love that line movement in favor of the Chiefs, but the dare to dream Detroit Lions, I'm already on their money line today. Why not have a tiny sprinkle of that 10-1 number?
Dal, quickly, I think it's telling that San Francisco is still the favorite over Baltimore, just factoring in the fact that the Ravens will have a tougher AFC championship game compared maybe to what the Niners are thinking. I think that's what FanDuel and the odds are telling us.
No question. I think San Francisco will be between like a 6 and a 10-point favorite next week, depending on who they play. But I think these are all tight. Like I mentioned, I would take a chance with San Francisco versus Buffalo at plus 440 if you match up the conference winners. I think there's a little bit of value in that as opposed to betting these teams every game the rest of the way.
Shout out to the Swami. He's like, if you go back to the 90s, Chris Berman picked San Francisco
Bills
versus
Niners.
Buffalo
Bills
single
Niners.
year. And it's
Bills
never happened.
Niners. Will he finally get his wish? We got a lot more coming up. We'll have a preview on Buffalo and Kansas City, a monstrous one at 6:30. Player props and maybe even a Podfather setting. All that and more. Ringer Wise, guys. Part 2, Divisional Round. We're coming right back right here on FanDuel TV. Loaded week of programming coming your way on FanDuel TV Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern. House, Raheem, yours truly. East Coast bias as we'll look ahead to Championship Sunday and dive into all the ins and outs for the NBA card and start getting closer to the college basketball NCAA tournament. Starting to eye up some teams I like already. Nice win for the Orange. Stunning Miami yesterday. What a thing of beauty that was. And speaking of things of beauty, Cousin Sal's winning weekend. Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. All sorts of fun. You want to check that out on FanDuel TV. Bill Simmons is going to have a pick momentarily, but don't forget, we got a conference championship Sunday show. Ringer Wise Guys, 11 a.m. Eastern, FanDuel TV. All right, Podfather, you didn't like my pick of the Buccaneers. I know that. You wanted to join us for the second straight show, and apparently with an unwelcome guest. Let's take a look.
Hey, Wise Guys, it's your pal Bill. It's the middle of the night here. It's 3 a.m. Murph just had diarrhea all over my bedroom, debating about whether to let him back inside, debating whether to just take a kitchen knife and stab myself. But I had a Chiefs-Lions tease that I love today, and now I'm not sure what to do. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be alive for the games, to be honest. What an absolute diarrhea apocalypse. Should I back off on bets today? Is this a bad omen? You guys tell me.
You know, House, after spending time with Murph last weekend, I find it impossible to believe that he could be such a menace within the Simmons household. I find that impossible. He was such a well-behaved dog.
Well, you make a great point, but and poor Murph, but this is now 2 strikes against the Podfather. Not only was he celebrating last night his 4-leg 13-point teaser as though it had already gotten across the line with this Chiefs-Bills thing sitting out there, but he's in the middle of the night. Murph has a certain omen. I don't know. I would proceed very cautiously if I was the Podfather here.
This definitely has bad omen written all over it, Sal. No question.
Well, look, hold on. First of all, he has 17 dogs. So if you're going to sleep with all of them, this is going to happen. All right. This is not that big a deal. Secondly, this is spelled out for you, Simmons, right? Your dog shit the bed. So all the underdogs today are going to do the same. So take the Bills and take the Lions and put them on a teaser at least, or a money line parlay. It's staring you right in the face. It smells, but that's what it's saying.
I'm going to go the opposite way. They say when a bird craps on you, it's good luck. So if the dog is going to crap all over his bed, then look, he's on the Chiefs plus 13.5. I think he's on the right side. So, Bill, that's a good omen. I think you got good luck coming your way.
Well, with a bird, I would tend to agree. When it happens in your own home, I don't know about that, Raheem. I, for one, would go the other way. All right, speaking of this Chiefs-Bills monster game, I can't wait to break it all down. For the second time, for the 4th time this weekend, let's wisen up. Sal, this is the game that's the must-see of the weekend. It's the smallest spread of the weekend. You have Buffalo laying a small number. Patrick Mahomes playing his first game on the road in his playoff career. Where do we stand? Chiefs getting points against Josh Allen and the Bills.
JJ, you said it, man. I think people are like, I'm taking the Bills, first of all, minus 2.5. So obviously it's been ice cold, and it makes sense that we're going to Buffalo with my ice cold picks. But everyone's like, how do you not take the Chiefs getting points in the playoffs? Well, here's how you do it. First of all, this is, like you said, JJ, Mahomes' first venture outside of Arrowhead in the postseason. Okay, so that's different. Also, yes, Chiefs are great. Dynasty team, maybe, sure. But they've also been very lucky these last few playoff games, right? Got the defensive holding call against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I don't know what happened against the Bengals, right? That was a crazy game. A couple weird calls there towards the end. When these two teams played, that went to overtime. So there's been a lot of luck involved. So don't make it like, oh my God, it's a foregone conclusion that the Chiefs who this version of the Chiefs isn't even as good as the ones that I just mentioned there. So I'm going to take Buffalo at home. You know, they figure out a way to get it done these last few weeks. You can't say they've been unbeatable, but by the fourth quarter, they get it together. And Josh Allen versus teams allowing less than 20 points a game, and I think the Chiefs are right there, around 16 or 17, is 26-1, 77% against the spread there. I'm going to say 26-21 win for the Bills. Kadarius Toney out of the lineup for the Chiefs, but I still think the Bills have a chance despite that, that definitely positive going the other way there. That line should move 26-21. Bills win the game.
I'm going off script here. So, crew, Jack Wilson and company, you got to follow along. I am going to go to Joe House after I go to Raheem Palmer for this reason. There's a reason and there's a method to my madness. I do East Coast bias with these two gentlemen each and every week. And Sal, you are going to be duking it out with our boy Dream. Mano-y-mano. It's Ali Frazier. Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. Dream, make the case. I know who you're on. Tell me why Kansas City's going to win this game.
Okay, I like the Kansas City Chiefs. I like them +3. I like them money line +130. I even like selling points with the Kansas City Chiefs. You could take them -2.5 +150 if you want to add that to your portfolio. Look, it's all this talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, all this talk about the Buffalo Bills and Taylor Swift and the Chiefs offense. The storyline is the Chiefs defense. They're 6th in EPA per play, 4th in success rate. No team has scored more than 20 points all season long, except for the Eagles, the Packers, the Lions, and the Broncos. The Lions had an interception return. Kansas City's defense only allowed 14 points. Denver had cheap points in that game. They had drives of 10 and 39 yards based on Chiefs turnovers. The Eagles, they had 3 long TD drives. Outside of Green Bay, nobody has put up a decent offensive performance against this Chiefs defense. Like, to me, I don't know why people aren't talking about this. Like, this Chiefs defense is the real deal. You're talking about a team that's 2nd in yards allowed, 5th in yards per play allowed, 8th in opponent QB rating, 8th in red zone TD percentage, and 10th in third down conversions allowed. The only weakness is that the Chiefs haven't forced many turnovers, and we all know Josh Allen can turn the ball over with the best of them, and it's only so long fake thugs can pretend, and it wouldn't surprise me if Josh Allen turned the ball over in a key spot. Now, you go back to that Week 10 game against the Chiefs versus Bills. The Bills were coming off a bye. The Chiefs were coming off a short week on that Sunday night football game. The Bills won 20-17, but the Chiefs had a higher success rate, 48-41, higher passing success rate, 49-37, higher on early downs. The Chiefs almost won that game if it weren't for an offensive offside penalty. I know this is the first time Mahomes is going on the road outside of the Super Bowl, but he was taking on the greatest of all time in Tom Brady, and he didn't have an offensive line. Mahomes is going on the road, and he's going to beat the Buffalo Bills. This is 1993. Jordan versus Ewing.
Don't do it, Raheem, please. I don't want to relive that. No. I think Charles Smith just missed another layup.
The public is going to relive that today. The Knicks won 33 in a row at home in the Garden. Jordan got it done. Patrick Ewing, Josh Allen doesn't beat Michael Jordan, Patrick Mahomes. Give me the Chiefs money line, give me +3, and give me -2.5.
By the way, hold on, Raheem. If this is 1993, the Bills are going to win at home 51-3 in the AFC Championship. I think that was the year. Somewhere in there, they killed him.
I love the heads-up action. This is fantastic theater. I mean, Chiefs and Bills is going to be good enough, but I'll take Raheem and Sal duking it out any day, anytime, any place, anywhere. House, rumor has it you and I are going to be aligned on this Chiefs-Buffalo game. Make the case for how you're going to play it for our wisest wager.
Well, I'll get to it, but the one thing that I'm bummed out about this game is all the injuries on the Chiefs side of the ball. We have cluster injuries at linebacker, cluster injuries at cornerback. Stephon Diggs has a foot problem. Gabe Davis out again. And it's not a fair fight because the Chiefs have 2 extra days of rest. So the way that Buffalo could have attacked this team with a multi-dimensional offense that has been very patient. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. And then the Chiefs have very quietly gotten a little more success through the air week 17 and against Miami. So I think the game script is under consideration, but I'm playing this as an under. It's under 45.5 points. We'll start with the technical case for the under. These two teams are a combined 24-12 to the under over the course of this season. The totals in Chiefs games on the road have closed at 43.75, under 44 points on average, but the actual game totals have averaged 39 points. The totals in Bills' home games close at 46, but produce actually 44 points on average. Fresh in our football recollection, fellas, these two teams just played a 20-17 game at Arrowhead. The Bills, since week 11, have run the ball the most in the entire NFL. And we watched just last week, Kansas City. It's been very ineffective, inefficient in the red zone. A bunch of field goals against that Miami defense. I think both teams are going to try to establish the run because that's the vulnerability of the opposing side's defenses. And it's been that way for the last quarter of the season. So I'm under 45.5 in this game, JJ.
House, let's make it a family play. I had a really hard time picking a side between Kansas City and Buffalo. I lean towards the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe it's my heart talking because I don't want to have to deal with Western New York taking over Super Bowl week or having a chance to be one win away from a Super Bowl, but I'm taking emotion out of it. I just get the sense this is going to be a rock'em sock'em game. Raheem hit on how dynamic Kansas City's defense has been all year. Chris Jones getting after the quarterback. The idea of Steve Spagnuolo drawing up blitzes. The physicality that you're seeing from Snead and McDuffie at corner. Look at what they did to Tyreek Hill just a week ago. And there were injuries for Buffalo at the wide receiver position. Then you look at Kansas City's offense. Kansas City's offense, even though they played better against the Miami Dolphins last week, they scored 2 offensive touchdowns and struggled mightily in the red zone. I think you're going to have a lot of folks betting this game saying, hey, it's Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. They're going to look at what happened in the postseason a couple of years ago, the craziness of that fourth quarter, the back and forth nature of that fourth quarter, and think, oh, there are going to be a whole lot of points in this game. I don't see it that way. I think the game is super tight. I think it's super competitive, but I think the under is the best way to play it. So, House, you and I aligned here for this Chief-Bill game. Give me the under at 45.5. Now, Sal, for our next guest pick, I think he might be topless after the Syracuse buzzer beater against Miami. So if he is, I may have to run and hide on Ringer Wise Guys. But a certain Harry has something he wants to add to the show. Is that correct?
Yes, this is my buddy from upstate New York. We went to college together. We got into gambling together, sports gambling. And, you know, I was all set with my Bills pick. It was going to be my best of the week. Not that that matters anymore because I'm so bad. But then I was shook, and I'm still shaken by this monstrosity of a selection. Go ahead. You can roll it.
But I'm going to take the Bills minus 9.5. I'm going to take the Bills minus 13.5. Listen, I just think it's a Bills blowout from beginning to end. Finally, Mahomes, Kelsey, and Andy Reid have to go on the road in the playoffs. Buffalo 48, Kansas City 4.
Wow. Now, listen, let me just tell you why I keep Harry around. First of all, he's the only one who's worse than I did. The graphic said 0-6. That was going into yesterday. He's now 0-8, picking games in the playoffs. So he's the only one worse than me, and he makes me look skinny. That's why I keep him around. 48-20 is ridiculous. I like the Bills, but not by that. My God, what did I say? They give up 16 points a game, the Chiefs, and he thinks they're going to put up 48. Congratulations, Raheem. Forget about everything I said. You won with your Chiefs. Good job with that bet. Don't even watch the game.
One thing I would say in Harry's defense, listen, I don't think it's going to be a 4-touchdown game, and nor do I think Buffalo is going to go and put up 48 points. Sal, I kind of get the sense if this game is close, Kansas City is going to find a way to win it. I don't know. I know Buffalo won a close game. Kadarius Toney was offside. It's not going to be of that margin, But I think Buffalo has kind of shown you, even though they've won some close games, they beat Miami close with the punt return. They beat Kansas City close earlier in the year. I don't trust them in a game that comes down to nitty gritty, dude. I don't.
Well, and factoring Harry back into the equation, every year for the last few years, he's picked against the Chiefs in the big game, and then on Monday he is there crying about the referees. So, yes, it would be true to form if that were the case.
And don't be surprised if Mr. Hockley ends up being a factor with the Chiefs and the Bills later on today. All right, guys, let's get to some player props for this Chief-Bill game. And I'm eyeing up Buffalo Bill tight end Dalton Kincaid, who has really come on lately for Josh Allen over the last couple of weeks. Look at his performance against the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had a big game against Miami in Week 18 and played well against New England in Week 17. His total for receiving yards is at 40.5. And if you're wondering, okay, Snead, McDuffie, they're going to lock down Diggs, they're going to lock down the guys on the outside. Josh Allen likes throwing to his tight end. I think his tight end will be heavily involved in this game plan. I feel good about this one. 40.5 and over. Tight end's been good to me over the course of the weekend. We'll keep that trend rocking. Raheem, I'm in on Kincaid. You are as well, but you're playing it differently.
Yeah, I'm going to take Dalton Kincaid over 4.5 receptions. We all know Chiefs shut down #1 receivers all year long, and I expect them to do the same thing with Stephon Diggs. We know Gabe Davis is out for this matchup, so somebody has to catch the ball. Last 3 games, Kincaid has 14 receptions on 21 targets for 230 yards. This is a good spot for him to get off. Dalton Kincaid over 4.5 receptions plus 114.
Guys, we haven't mentioned Taylor Swift is going to be in the building today, and that leads me right into my player prop. Ain't that right, Joe House?
Well, I hadn't had confirmation that Taylor was going to be there, but look at this prop that I'm about to play. I have 2 props. I'm going to spring one on you. I'm 1,000% betting the under on the amount of Taylor Swift themed food items. They created 2 food items to celebrate Taylor Swift songs. They're doing a Karma quesadilla that has chicken tenders, bacon, and cilantro ranch topped with a pork belly chaser. That does sound delicious. And then they're doing the Bad Blood waffle fries, spice waffle fries with buffalo chicken sauce and blue cheese. And then they put in some Kansas City barbecue pork. This game is in Buffalo. Who is buying those things? Who's supporting Taylor Swift Kansas City themed food? Way under on that stuff. But with Taylor Swift boyfriend, we're going over. His receiving yards number is 61.5. Sometimes an obvious answer is the right answer. In my humble opinion, the Kelsey market has finally settled at a number that feels right to go over. And this is really about the combination of Travis Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, the trust factor. Kelsey, he averages 8 catches for 88 yards in the playoffs. Long storied history between him and Mahomes. He had 71 yards last week. He caught 6 balls for 83 yards in the matchup against the Bills a few weeks ago. This is what happens when these teams in these high leverage situations, the Chiefs in these high leverage situations, the guys who trust each other come through. If Mahomes is going to go down, he's going to go down by throwing the ball to Travis Kelsey and to Rashee Rice, the only guys that he trusts.
Dropped a couple passes last week, but it was the best Travis Kelsey was moving around. It felt like in a long time, and I'm with you. You got to figure he'll be actively and heavily involved in this game plan because Mahomes is going to go to guys he can count on. He can count on Travis Kelsey. All right, Sal, last but not least, you're going back to the well with a prop that I felt like you were giving us quite a bit at the beginning of the season. Now you bring it full circle here for the divisional round.
Well, first of all, I love all the tight end positivity you guys are putting out there. JJ Raheem with Kincaid and House with Travis Kelsey. My one long shot bet that is still alive for the weekend is that a tight end will score a touchdown in all 4 games. We saw Likely get paid dirt. We saw George Kittle get there. So now we got, I think, the easier ones with Laporta and Kincaid and Kelsey. I think we can get there. Dawson Knox. Anyway, my prop, though, and especially coming off the heels of Harry's blowout, as much as I like the Bills, Josh Allen, this is what you're referring to, JJ, to throw an interception, minus 130. I know I'm not doing you any favors with the juice here, but it's happened in 12 of the last 14 games he's played. Why is this only minus 130 if it's 12-2 to the yes here? Even if he's on his game, balls get tipped all the time. And by the way, I like both of these guys to throw an interception. Mahomes has thrown one in 6 of his last 7 road games. In fact, if you play all 4 to throw an interception, I really think you go 3-1 here. But Allen is minus 130 as my pick to throw a pick in a winning effort.
Have you looked at the number, by the way, for Mahomes Allen interception parlay? I have not seen that. Do you know what it is?
I didn't see. I did look at it, and it told me I couldn't parlay it. And then I asked to speak to the manager, and I'm still on hold here.
That's disappointing. That is very disappointing. All right, I'll tell you what won't be disappointing. Our Ringer Wise Guy family meal for the Sunday of the divisional round. Sal, I'm giving you back-to-back belly-to-belly, so you're going to have to deal with that customer service representative at another time. I need another play out of you. What are you starting the proceedings with?
Well, this is a nice FanDuel special. And again, this seems high, much like the Mike Evans to be the leading receiver in the Lions-Bucs game seems high. Plus 380 that the Chiefs and Bills each score 1 rushing touchdown and 1 passing touchdown. I think we're going to get some points here. I know a couple of you guys have the under here, but the Chiefs, it used to be a problem, the rushing touchdown, right? Pacheco's taking care of that. He scored in the last 3 games. That shuffle pass from the 2-yard line is now Isaiah Pacheco ramming it in from the 5. So I think that is the wild card there. You got to think Mahomes will throw for 1. Cook has been running the ball well inside the 20 there. If not, Josh Allen runs it. I don't know. I think if they get 3 touchdowns each and it's split up accordingly between rushing and throwing, looking at almost 4-1 for that parlay.
It's a juicy number. I know House and myself will not be rooting for it, considering we don't want to see a whole lot of points in that Bill Chief game. We want to see a whole lot of field goals. That'd be good for our under. House, you got a 2-team parlay that you're bringing to the table. What would that 2-team parlay be?
Yeah, we're going to try and play a couple meaty winners. We have corned beef egg rolls from Detroit. They hail from Detroit, the Asian corned beef restaurant. This place lays claim to inventing the corned beef egg roll. It's been imitated a lot, but cannot be duplicated. Detroit on the money line, parlayed with the Kansas City Chiefs, the delicious burnt ends. Man, what a delicacy. It is like meat butter in your mouth. We've made the case or the Chiefs on the money line. I like everything that Dream had to say. I especially like the way on offense. I talked about it a little bit in terms of my handicap on the total. I think that their success rate, their improvement on offense carries through. So I like the Chiefs on the money line, the Lions on the money line. That pays better than 2-1. Corned beef egg rolls and burnt ends. What could go wrong?
A whole lot, but hopefully a winner for you with Detroit on the money line and Kansas City on the money line. Okay, Raheem, time for the main course, buddy boy. Take it away.
We got some baked chicken wings. We could go with a lighter option. We're not going to go full Buffalo style. And the reason why is we're going to go Bills team total under 23.5. There is some 24s out there. If you could find a 24, that would be better because we know 24 is a key number on NFL totals. But you're expecting Buffalo to reach a target score that only 2 Kansas City opponents have reached all season long. And we know Gabe Davis is out, and we know Stephon Diggs will probably get locked down. So you can't expect Buffalo to go out there and have a full offensive performance. You look at the Chiefs, their median defensive performance is 17 points a game. So the average or typical opponent is scoring around 17 points per game against this Chiefs defense. And I'm not expecting Josh Allen and this Bills offense, which has really been up and down all season long, to score more against this Chiefs defense, especially in Buffalo where the weather isn't too good. So give me Bills team total under 23.5.
That would be music to my ears. If you play any under in this game, that is kind of the correlation you're looking for. I think Sal is really liking what I'm going to bring to the Ringer Wise Guy family meal from a dessert standpoint. I'm looking at Mike Evans, and I'm going to throw in a 2-team Mike Evans parlay or 2-team player parlay, however you want to slice it. Give me an anytime touchdown. I think he finds pay dirt. He dropped the touchdown last week. I think he scores in this particular game and 60-plus receiving yards. You're getting that at plus 142. juicy value, juicy number. The only thing that'll be missing is the orange jerseys because they leave the creamsicles down in Tampa, Florida. Listen, they're beautiful jerseys, but they're associated with losing. So I'm glad the Bucs won't be rocking the creamsicles. Hopefully, we are bringing some orange sherbet and some touchdowns and some Mike Evans love to the party. I think he has a monster day later on this afternoon. All right, guys, let's take a look at the big board for the most yards from a quarterback in the divisional round. So here is the board right now as we speak. Jared Goff, the favorite at plus 130. Baker Mayfield, a lot of people, myself included, expecting a big day out of him at plus 240. Mahomes plus 310. Allen at plus 650. And remember, Brock Purdy already played, and they're putting his total up at plus 1,500. House, I give you that board right there. Kind of like Mayfield at plus 240. How do we feel about that?
You stole my thunder. That's exactly the play. That is the correct play. He has the weapons there. Preference is to throw. They don't have the same kind of rush attack that Detroit has. I think Detroit will be spreading the ball around and alternating between rushes and passes will have a depleting kind of effect on Goff yardage. So Mayfield is my pick for this one.
Raheem, that board.
100% agree. It's definitely Baker Mayfield, and they could find themselves in a game script where they need to throw to get back into this game, and I think that sets them up well. So I really love Baker Mayfield at plus 240. I think Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, both they will rely on the run a little bit more. So Baker it is.
Sal, I can't see you aligning with us here. I feel like you're going to go contrarian on this.
Well, it is weird because I have Evans like you to do great things. So why wouldn't I take Baker Mayfield? So the number to beat for Purdy is 252, right? That was the high game for yesterday. I got to say, I know you guys have the under in that Chiefs-Bills game, but think about it. Take a step back, blur your eyes. Mahomes plus 310, Allen plus 650. Take both of those guys. Who knows? Could be a shootout. Could go overtime. Never know with those guys. Two of the best that played the game.
We got a YouTube comment quickly from Chase wondering about Allen at over 45 rushing yards. I love it, Sal. These quarterbacks, when in doubt, look to run. That's a winner.
I mean, he had a 52-yarder last week. I'd hate to bet against it, except I'm sorry about the 3 kneel downs at the end of the game. That's going to net him minus 9 yards, Raheem. That's the only thing.
Raheem, fire on that. I love that with Allen. He's going to run a ton in this game.
Yeah, I like that one. That's a good one.
That's going to do it, guys, for this divisional round Ringer Wise Guys extravaganza. We will be on all of our digital platforms for the next 30 or so minutes. Danny Heifetz is going to join us. You want to check it out, YouTube, Twitter, all that good stuff. Good job by Jack Wilson, the whole crew at our FanDuel Spotify studios. For Sal, House, Raheem, JJ signing off. Enjoy the games. Cash those tickets. We'll be back next week for Championship Sunday. Boys are out. Be good, everybody. Welcome back. It is digital time of Ringer Wise Guys. Final half hour here for our friends on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you're streaming, all wonderful platforms. We just wrapped up our hour show on FanDuel TV. Cousin Sal, Joe House, Raheem Palmer, and John Jastremski. Guys, FanDuel loves putting up these boosts, and they're fun, and it's something to root for. One of them I had yesterday went down in flames. I think it was 30 passing yards, guys, in the first quarter. CJ Stroud got there, no problem. I think Lamar Jackson finished up with 29. I mean, cruel, but beyond cruel. I got two I want to throw at you guys because they sound way too appealing. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Mike Evans to combine for 150 receiving yards. Mahomes and Allen to combine for 3 passing touchdowns. These are 2 separate boosts. They're both plus 100. Raheem, I like the receiver one. I think the quarterback one smells like a rat.
Give me the receiver one. I think they're just giving out free money. I mean, occasionally these books are just nice to us. I don't know why they're so nice to us, but I think this is one that should go over pretty easily.
House, would you play both of those?
No, under no circumstances would I play the passing touchdown one between the Bills and the Chiefs. I don't think that that's the script for these teams. When they get down in the red zone, in the first place, there's going to be very few touchdowns. 3 is it might be the total number of touchdowns we see in this game. I think we're going to see a ton of field goals between the Bills and the Chiefs. But that receiver one in the dome on the fast track, let's get cooking and let's build up the bankroll for the Super Bowl. Let's go.
No, I'm all over it. Sal, you might be on that Mahomes-Allen one. You think we're going to have points in Buffalo?
It is so funny how all of a sudden we're like, Mahomes, Allen. If there's 3 touchdowns in that game, we're lucky. That's high. I like Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff. Like, what has happened to everybody? Yes, bet the over on all those.
All right, guys, time for a little Wise Guys, please advise. Let's take a look at a viewer email. Let's see it, Jack. Thank you. Hey, Wise Guys, with Mahomes and Allen facing off in the frost on Sunday night, not on Saturday night. I'll correct you there, Cliff. It got me wondering if your team had to win a game to save your life in sub-zero temperatures with howling winds. Which quarterback from NFL history do you want under center? Tua. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think anybody wants to see Tua in the cold weather ever again. I want any Tua warm weather game to be, can they build a dome in Western New York? Can they build a dome in Arrowhead Stadium so I don't have to see that ever again? I'll go first here. He's definitely not the best quarterback I've seen all time, Sal. But I kind of feel like Brett Favre at Lambeau Field in the frozen tundra was like a given in my childhood to go and ball out. Like Brady is the cop-out answer because Brady is the best of all time in any conditions imaginable. I'll go with Brett Favre here. How do we feel?
I thought you were going to say Ryan Fitzpatrick, which is a pretty good answer in itself. You know what? I'm going to go John Elway here. I watched that drive again and just what he did to the Browns, and not just that drive. He's done it in cold weather games throughout his career, so he's a little bit on the outside, probably not first tier, but I would put him number 1 in terms of who I trusted. Now, if I could be guaranteed that Bill Simmons wasn't listening right now, I would say Tom Brady, but I don't want to give him the
I feel like Brady should be excluded from this conversation, to be honest with him. Like, he's the best to ever do it. I don't want Brady answers. Give me somebody other than Brady.
I love Tom Brady. Like I always say, Tom Brady's like Alonzo from Training Day. You give him 18 months, he'll give you a career. Let's go back to October 18th, 2009. The Patriots played the Titans. They were 7-point favorites in New England. Tom Brady threw 6 touchdowns in the snow. Won that game 59-0. Give me Tom Brady. There's no other answer.
I get it. House, you got somebody for me?
I liked John Elway. That was going to be my selection. So I'll just take John Elway 2.0. I think Josh Allen, because he has a nice track record. When we touched on the number of his success at home, both in the playoffs and in the regular season. It's frigid up there. I mean, today's game is going to go a long way towards proving out that script. My answer really is John Elway, but I don't mind rolling with a little John Elway 2.0 and Josh Allen.
Trevor Simeon did very well against the Patriots this year. Let's not count him out just yet.
That big
Before we move on,
performance.
Before we move on, I'm surprised nobody said White Kyrie, aka Aaron Rodgers. I know people probably didn't want to piss off Sal today.
I mean, listen, if I'm thinking Green Bay Packer quarterback in the snow, I'll take from a bad weather perspective. Give me Favre. I know he lost to the Giants in that frigid game with the Corey Webster interception, but I remember him smoking the Carolina Panthers. I mean, the guy, Sal, it felt like Favre was playing in freezing games in Lambeau Field his entire life.
I got you. I'm with you. In fact, it's when he got into the dome is when he ran into trouble, in fact.
It's funny. Go ahead, House.
I was gonna say that bum Rodgers 12 couldn't overcome 12 points by the San Francisco a couple of years ago in the snow. He's a bum.
Yeah.
Well, San Francisco, and then the following year in the NFC, or the year prior in the NFC title game against Tampa, lost both of those games. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, he definitely did.
It's funny though. Normally, you don't think about who's the best cold weather quarterback. You think about the guys that are the worst in these sort of conditions. Sure. And it has you think about Peyton Manning. It has you think about Drew Brees. And now, it has me thinking about Tua. Certain quarterbacks just not built to play in the elements. All right, our extra point taken, guys. Shield, Solak, they are back by popular demand. They have picks for each of these two games on Sunday. And if they're wise, they're taking the Buccaneers plus the points, and they're taking the under and the Chiefs and the Lions. Just saying. No, I don't know what they have. They're coming up. Let's hear.
Here we go. Picks against the spread. So we can each pick 3 games. I've got mine written down, so this isn't one of the weeks where I'm doing game theory and Ben picked
There's only 4 games possible.
Yeah, there's only 4.
Having them written down, you would only have one more written down than you would otherwise.
Good point. Fair point. All right. Go ahead. Start us off. What do you got? What's your first lock of the week?
I do like Lions minus 6.5 against the Bucs. Probably the game
we got the same. We got another same one. Is this good or bad?
Yeah. This feels a little bit square versus sharp. Feels a little bit public versus pro. Lions team has just been so good down the stretch, and they're a fun team to poke holes in because it's Jared Goff and it's the other team's wide receiver goes for 250 yards. Fun sort of football to talk about, right? It's good narratives, but in general, this is a really balanced team. But I just don't think Baker and this passing offense scares me enough. They're going to be in so many 2nd and 10s, so many 3rd and 9s because of the rushing attack that you mentioned, the game script. This is not a tenable a game script. The way Buccaneers want to play ball. They want this to be 10-10 in the 3rd quarter, and I don't see the Lions ever putting up that few points in the first half. With the way this team jumps on you, the way they get ahead on you, the way they're successful in the opening script, I think it's a bad matchup for the Bucs.
Lions at home with Campbell and Jared Goff have been very good against the spread. One of the best bets in football over the last couple of years. I just trust this Lions offense against this Bucs defense. Jared Goff 4th in success rate against the blitz this season. They have the answers. They will not look like the Eagles did last week structurally.
We don't need to talk. Don't bring up the Eagles.
Okay, I won't bring that up. So I like that. So we're both on the same side. I know our last game's going to be different because I'm not touching Chiefs Bills on my lock of the week. You are. What side do you have, Benjamin?
I like the Chiefs to cover. I like the Chiefs to win too, but I think it's going to be low scoring. And I think that you're going to see a spirited performance in the Bills defense, but I think they just have too many matchup problems left in the back 7. So I think the Chiefs are going to be able to find those 8 and 9 play drives that you were talking about. Like I said, if you're the Bills, it's keep Mahomes in the pocket, also pressure him, and then also limit the yak. Like there's a lot on the menu to make sure that you can actually force this Chiefs team into 3-point drives, into longer drives. So plus 2.5 for the Chiefs on the road against Buffalo. Sorry, Bills fans. Mahomes is going to end your season again.
Patrick Mahomes has been an underdog 10 times in his career, Ben. 8-1-1 against the spread in those spots. 7 times the Chiefs have won outright. I mean, if you just, the rest of his career, just take Mahomes as an underdog, you're probably going to come out in a pretty good spot. I'm not touching this game. I couldn't go against my takes in this game, man. Like if I didn't have any previous takes,
you're leveraged on the Bills, man.
Yeah, I'm leveraged. If I didn't have any previous takes, if I didn't a month ago bury the Chiefs, if I didn't 2 months ago say don't sleep on the Bills, they still have a chance here, then maybe I would just go with that underdog number and say I'm not stupid. Just like it's an even game. But you know what? Sometimes you're dug in too deep, and I'm dug in too deep. So this isn't one of my locks. I want nothing to do with it. I would never put actual money on this game. I do have the Bills -2.5 in this game.
Wow, I didn't even have to welcome him in. You just see him right there. Danny Heifetz of the Ringer Fantasy Football Show, one of the Ringer's very top-notch, extraordinary talents. Buddy, welcome in. You have some thoughts on the cold weather quarterback you'd want to see come playoff time. I'm very curious to hear this.
I think you guys nailed 3 of the 4. You guys read my mind actually in order. It was Brett Favre, John Elway, and Brady. I wanted to note one to Raheem's thing with Brady when he had 6 touchdown passes in that 59-0 game. They pulled Tom Brady with 25 minutes left in that game. Wow. So he could have had the touchdown pass record, but he could have hit 10. So I think that's Brady's case. I will say, I agree that Josh Allen's Elway 2.0, but I think the 4th has to be Patrick Mahomes.
I agree. Listen, I've seen Allen stink up the joint in bad weather games. I think about that game in the wind. What was it? Buffalo, New England a few years ago. And even last year, didn't play great against Cincinnati. Mahomes, Heifetz, it was sub-zero temperatures, below 20 degrees last week. And I got Patrick Mahomes slinging it like it's 80 and sunny. I mean, that's just superhuman, dude. I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, the touch that he was able to put on those passes. I mean, the receivers were dropping it, but his touch, it was, as a wise man once said, kind of like meat butter in your mouth.
Look at House. Oh,
House, you got to walk away now. That's rough.
Trouble. I agree. Heifetz is setting you up, not for success. I think he's setting you up for trouble. Speaking of setting us up for trouble, Heifetz, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Rumor has it you have some trends that you want to throw our way, and I'm looking forward, as the rest of the fellas are, to maybe reacting. Let's hear.
Yeah, I mean, Wild Card Weekend, this was kind of under the radar because there were so many cool narratives, but it was just this tight end bonanza. I mean, there were 10 touchdowns from tight ends last week. I mean, the Browns-Texans game, 4 different tight ends scored a touchdown in that game. And then Jake Ferguson had 3 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion in Dallas. I think the weird one that went under the radar was 5 different tight ends last weekend had their longest catch of the season all year with 5 different tight ends. And so, and you always look at those too on FanDuel and you're like, oh, longest catch. And you're like, oh, it's kind of a weird one to make, like Dawson Knox over 19 yards, but they all hit last weekend. And so I'm wondering, I have thoughts on it, but I'm wondering, do you guys think that that's kind of a weird one-off blip? It's just all right, that was weird. Or do you think that the tight end usage is a trend that would continue and says something about how winning in the playoffs is different than winning in the regular season? I'm curious what Raheem in particular, I don't know if you want to start. I'm curious what you think about that.
It's probably a trend. I think in the case of Buffalo, you have a team who they really don't have any other offensive weapons. I mean, Stephon Diggs isn't the same guy. You look at Gabe Davis, he's out. So it's they kind of need Kincaid. Or you look at the case of, Laporta. He's always been just such a big part of that offense. So it's probably a trend where you just have certain teams that just are super reliant on their tight ends.
Yeah, I know Sal wants this. Sal's all over this. Yeah. This is so Heifetz, you are feeding right into our buddy's play for one of the wacky specials he has coming up this week. So Sal, take it away on that.
Nothing wacky about cashing plus 650, JJ.
No, definitely not.
I'd like to talk to your accountant and see what you think is
you should. It wasn't great last year on the tax standpoint. I paid way too much. Thanks to New York State. Appreciate
Danny,
it.
my big one is plus 650 that a tight end scores in every game this weekend. We got Likely happen. We got George Kittle happen. So now we got, I think, the better of the group of tight ends playing today. And I do think it's something to do with it. Maybe getting the nerves out. Tight end's usually a shorter route option, right? So if you want to get your quarterback who might be nervous in the playoffs off to a good, easy start, hit the tight end early. I know I had Cade Otton under because all the trends said under, and he had 40 seconds into the game, his went over. So even tight ends like that do well. So I think you're onto something with the tight end stepping up in divisional round and wild card round. House, now you go.
Okay.
There you go. That is what you call a transition, Joe House. Thank you, Sal. I appreciate
JJ
that.
was wheeling and dealing. I didn't know if JJ was going to cut me in. I think there is an element to the preparation for these playoff games where the script the tweak to the script is like route trees that create opportunities for players that are not on film, right? I think some of what we saw from the Chiefs last week against the Dolphins might be a little bit of a vanilla script. I think we might see a different kind of script this week. So I'm on this idea of the tight ends being the beneficiary across the board of, in the playoff time where you have nothing to lose, you have to have all options on the table.
I kind of tying this all together, but this is really what you guys were hitting earlier, where it's like House. I totally agree with Kelsey that the numbers come down, but that's who Mahomes is going to lean on. And then I think Raheem and Sal, you guys both had the Bills, or maybe JJ, I think you guys both had the Bills tight ends. That's what I like this week. I like the Dalton Kincaid over 40 yards. You had JJ. I like the Dalton Kincaid. I forget the 4.5 catches. Raheem, I like that a lot. I also like Dawson Knox, the other Bills tight end, to have over. I think it's almost 5-1 to score a touchdown at any point in the game. And then even James Cook for the Bills. I think that the running back, it's over 18.5 receiving yards. I would ladder that to over 20, 30, 40, any alts you can get, because I look at this game and I'm like, the Bills receivers, as you guys have been saying, they can't win this game. The last time the Bills and Chiefs played, Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Khalil Shakir combined for 36 yards. Woo! And Gabe Davis, they can't even play. It's like they're going to win this way. And then, all right, so Gabe Davis is out. The last 3 months, Khalil Shakir has more receiving yards than Stephon Diggs. I don't know if he's hurt or what, but you can't rely on Diggs to win this game. So the Bills this is what they spent all year doing since the Bengals ran them off their own field last year, almost a year ago to the day. And they have to get in 2 tight end sets, run the ball, and throw to the tight ends, because you can't beat the Chiefs cornerbacks. You got to beat the linebackers. So I love the Dawson Knox stuff. I love the Dalton Kincaid stuff. I love James Cook stuff, because that's how the Bills have to win. They have to beat the linebackers for Kansas City. And I think that, honestly, the Buffalo, this whole offseason, this whole era of the Bills has kind of been coming down to this specific matchup. That's why they took Kincaid in the first.
Knox was 20-1. Dawson Knox was 20-1 to score the first touchdown last week. That was the best tight end value.
I think it was the only bet I hit all weekend, to be honest with you, Sal. That and the Rams covering 3. Otherwise, it was a nightmarish wild card weekend for you, boy. Heifetz, out of all the tight ends playing on Sunday, we got a lot of good ones. Otten, Laporta, Knox, Kincaid, and Taylor Swift's boyfriend. I give you an opportunity to go and bet on one of them to score a touchdown. Who do you like to score?
It's all even Kelsey, and then honestly, do you guys know Kelsey first touchdown's like 10-1? I kind of think that's still kind of incredible to think about. I believe so.
It's been like 8 weeks, right?
There's going to be a lot of people betting that one, though. That's the only thing. There'll probably be a lot of liability with that.
But that's kind of wild to think about. It's in the playoffs. He's like 17 touchdowns in 19 playoff games. I know that he hasn't been as good, but it's like, I don't know. It seems high.
That is crazy.
10-1. Might have to think about that. All right, so trend 1. Heifetz all aboard the tight end train. We are right there with them. Trend 2, Danny Heifetz.
Well, I'm just curious what you guys think, because I think the other thing, the simplest way I would look at this round of the playoffs, I just look at this round. I feel like the AFC is all these superhero quarterbacks, right? Like they're Marvel movies. You go to a Marvel movie in theaters. You guys are old enough to remember theaters. And then you go and you watch the Marvel movie, and then the credits roll. You get up. It's like, you got to sit down. The movie's not over, right? There's another scene after the credits roll. That's kind of these superhero quarterbacks, like Lamar Jackson. The defense calls the right play. Everyone's covered. Credits. The play's not over. Now you have to tackle Lamar Jackson. Good luck. Like, even superhero quarterbacks, even when the play's over, it's not over. Lamar Jackson's like that for the Ravens. Josh Allen's like that for the Bills. Mahomes is like that for the Chiefs. Even Stroud is kind of like that for Houston, right? Half the dropbacks are pressures yesterday. He still made things happen. That's the AFC. And the flip side is you look at the NFC, and it's not like that at all. There's no superhero quarterbacks. Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, the Jared Goff movie, the credits roll, there's no play after the play, right? But I do think all these NFC teams are ensemble casts, right? They're Ocean's 11. It's the names. You look at the 49ers, it's not about Purdy, it's George Kittle. It's Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Shanahan. It's like Ocean's 11. It's like George Clooney, Matt Damon. Oh my God, I forgot Bernie Mac in this. Like, it's the amount of names. It's the supporting cast. And I look at that with the Bucs are kind of the Bucs, the Lions. I'm a little scared because I was on the Bucs, but now everyone here except House is on the Bucs, so that freaks me out a little. But I'm curious looking at all this. People forget that half the Bucs defenders won the Super Bowl 3 years ago. But I'm curious looking at this. House, you're vigorously nodding, so I'll start with you. But which of these styles, NFC, AFC, really, which of these do you think wins the Super Bowl? Is it like the superhero Marvel movie in the AFC, or do you think it's like the ensemble Ocean's 11 cast in the NFC?
It's definitely the AFC that we've seen it. Over time we've had a couple referendums. Baltimore beat the crap out of San Francisco. That game wasn't competitive, and that's because they have both sides of the ball contained. I mean, San Francisco, if we really think that the odds makers, the markets all suggest that they're going to be the one that ends up there. They haven't been the same defense since Hufanga got hurt in week 10. They really have not shored up that back half of the defense. And from my estimation, Green Bay, and particularly Jordan Love, who had an incredible season, they snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. That bum that they drafted at kicker, I don't know what you can't show up at playoff games and put that bum out there in the highest leverage situation and hope for a desired outcome. We made this investment in this guy, and so he must be, because he's our third round pick, we must put him in the game winning position, and he does what he does, and you lose the game. Okay, that's what happens. I like your idea of this cast notion in terms of the NFC, but it can't match up with what the AFC is able to put out there. And really, because you can't really game plan for Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson in terms of how you're going to tackle those guys when they get out in open space.
Counter, San Francisco had their scare. And I think the Deebo Samuel injury is a huge deal. Like, I don't know if he's coming back. Let's say he's coming back for the Super Bowl and they could survive the NFC title game. I think the FanDuel odds, having the Niners still as the favorite to go and win it, it's rather telling. I think San Francisco, with all of the ways they can beat, and I talked about this the other day, Heifetz, I love McCaffrey for Super Bowl MVP because I think if the Niners get there, it's going to be like, all right, big dog, we're relying on you. We can't rely on Brock Purdy to go and throw the ball 40 or 45 times in a game. And hey, McCaffrey at the end of that game against Green Bay, fourth quarter, all the marbles. We talk about Shanahan's teams being tight, and that's a fair narrative and a reasonable narrative. Raheem, every big play the Niners needed in the fourth quarter of that game, McCaffrey's like, I got you. So I saw him at plus 850. I'm on it for Super Bowl MVP. I'm not counting out the Niners because of a subpar performance against the Packers. The Niners, you could argue, hey, they had their scare. They'll bounce back and they'll look much better next round.
I'm going with the Super Bowl, the superhero quarterbacks. I mean, we know Lamar Jackson is 20-3 against NFC opponents. And the one thing I saw yesterday from Brock Purdy is I know he had the game-winning drive, but at some point, you can't just live on the edge and throw all these interceptable passes and expect to get away with it against top-notch competition. Green Bay dropped a bunch of them. And we know that he's going to give you. We know that Jared Goff's going to give you one. We know that Baker Mayfield is going to give you one. We can't say the same about Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. You're going to have to beat those guys. And it's very difficult to trust the guys on the NFC side when it matters. So I'm going with the AFC.
Here's another counter. And, while Mahomes and Allen are bigger names and everything, let's just take it back 3 weeks ago when Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy were right up there with Lamar Jackson to win MVP. So this is a weird league, right? This is a week-to-week league. And whereas Mahomes and Allen, where you can get like 15 or 20 to 1 on those guys a few weeks ago. So let's not bury the NFC just yet.
Okay.
That's fair.
I want to get some picks from Heifetz on these two games. Heifetz, you referenced this. A lot of us like Tampa today. We were mocked by our boss, Bill Simmons. Called us a bunch of idiots. How do you guys like Tampa? They stink. I think they're going to keep the game close. I think they got pedigree. I think Mayfield's got a chip on his shoulder, and I think they can attack that Lions secondary. Can I get you to join with Tampa plus 6.5?
No, I'm there. I am there. And look, there's actually a chance we all look very stupid because the reality is we're betting on a team to make the NFC Championship game, and the Tampa Bay cannot run the ball. And that's a little scary. And the Lions, all they kind of need to do is get an early lead, and we might be toast. Having said that, I think the Bucs are really underrated in this game for a couple of reasons. The ensemble casting I mentioned. I think it's Brady got so much credit for the Bucs Super Bowl that we kind of ignored. There are literally except Aaron Donald, they're like in Ernest Jones, their middle linebacker. There are no defenders left from the Rams Super Bowl. That was only a couple years ago. The majority of the Buccaneers defensive starters that won the Super Bowl are still the defensive starters. But they have Levante David and they have They have Antoine Winfield Jr., who's probably one of the best safeties in the league. Like, they still have Shaq Barrett. They still have Jamel Dean. Like, they literally 6 of the 11 defenders. And so I look at Todd Bowles. What do we always say about Jared Goff? If Jared Goff does one dumb thing a game. Well, if Jared Goff does 3 dumb things, the Lions are going to lose. And that's why, like, Sal, you had Josh Allen to throw a pick at -130. Yeah. Jared Goff to throw a pick is -122. And I think that he doesn't have the Josh Allen 12 of 14 games he threw a pick stat. But I just think Jared Goff versus Todd Bowles in the Bucs in the playoffs is different than Jared Goff versus Todd Bowles in the Bucs like 3 months ago when they won by 14. So yes, we could look stupid, but I think the Buccaneers, frankly, aren't as cool of a story as the Lions, and that's really blinded us. And I think it's the perfect window that doesn't get captured in these numbers and lines. Raheem, you have so many great insights into the numbers and lines, but I think that this is a perfect thing. If we all want Detroit to win, they're more fun, they're cooler people. And also, the other thing that doesn't get captured is the Lions are a young team. How often do you see a young team not ready for the moment? All these Bucs players have won the Super Bowl. Like 11 of the 22 starters have won the Super Bowl. They've been there and the Lions haven't.
My only counter would be Baker Mayfield hasn't won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's the only one. And it's a biggie. That's a biggie.
Kind of a biggie. I do like, all the points are fine. It's why I would not lay the points with Detroit and why I prefer to just play Detroit on the money line. I think just it's the slightest of edges for Detroit in having a multifaceted attack. They can run the ball. And if Detroit's pass defense is the worst unit on the field, I think the fact that they have the home field advantage, that to me is the thing that tips, because Goff at home is not the Goff that we all grew accustomed to. He's a super Goff. We saw him last week against the Rams he was perfect. He had a perfect passer rating in the first half of that game. And I honestly thought that the Rams were the most formidable obstacle to the 49ers getting to the Super Bowl. The fact that Detroit handled them impressed me.
Okay, so you're aligned with Tampa. Buffalo, Kansas City, impossible to pick. You got to pick it, though, Danny. That's what we do. What side are you on?
Dude, give me a Chiefs Bucs money line parlay, both to win outright.
Wow, okay, that's showing some chutzpah on the show. I like it.
These teams won the Super Bowl. They're the only teams left. They both won the Super Bowl, and it gets 7-1 for them to win.
That's a juicy parlay. I might join you.
I like that one.
I might join you on that one. I'm not gonna lie. I like a family parlay when we can find one that's getting 7-1. What could go wrong there? All right, let's get.
What could go wrong? Does he know about Simmons' 14th dog Murph and what went wrong last night?
Did you hear about this? After being with Murph over the course of a weekend, Sal, I still find it hard to believe he would sabotage a home like that. That dog is too nice to be getting in that sort of trouble.
Murph got into last weekend's leftovers, I think, is what happened.
He might have had some of the Kung Pao chicken or those slippery shrimp. I don't know. All right, we got some weekly specials before we say goodbye. I don't even know what these are. Defense, field goal, they're wacky. You got a wacky one for us, Ivitz?
I mean, Chase McLaughlin to have over 6.5 points, that dude can just kick it from 50 yards. Also, all the kickers can make it from 55 now, like it's nothing. But I like Chase McLaughlin.
All right, you like McLaughlin. Raheem, you went with a kicker prop last week, and I was nervous about it because of the cold conditions at Arrowhead Stadium. And listen, there are certain guys it's just never in doubt. I saw that with Tucker yesterday. He had a 50-something yard field goal, and it's like, yeah, no big deal. Just like it's September and it's 80 and it's Joe House golfing weather. But you got Butker once again. What is it?
Yeah, over 6.5 points. I mean, it's 2 field goals and 1 extra point. And I think we get there. I mean, I did this last week. I'm going back to the well again.
Okay. Heifetz, you're going to leave us with a parting thought. Who's more vulnerable next week? Baltimore, San Francisco?
Baltimore, because they're going to be playing a better team.
Vegas agrees with you. FanDuel agrees with you because of the numbers they have out for the Super Bowl bets. I almost spoiled, Sal, the lines for Sunday, but I was on good behavior and I didn't say a word. I don't know if you caught me there, but I caught myself. Because I don't want to hear the excuses if you go and get the lines right and Simmons says, oh, what happened? You heard him on Ringer Wise Guys. Maybe you did.
That's a pretty good impression. I think you're getting there, Jay.
No, I gave it no effort.
Anyway.
I gave it no effort on the impression. 0. So actually, no, I leave that to you.
It was a Murph type effort. Okay.
It was Murph late night, at the end of the show, and you never know what could happen. Heifetz, thanks, buddy. Enjoy the games, and we'll chat soon, okay?
Thank you for having me, guys.
That's Danny Heifetz. That's going to do it for bonus time, Ringer Wise guys. For Sal, House, Raheem, JJ signing off. Enjoy all the football. I'm freezing, by the way. I don't have my heat on in my office. I don't know why. Well, that's what
Don't
happened.
put your slanket on, JJ.
I need it. All right, on that note, we'll see you next week for Championship Sunday. Be good, everybody.